Welcome to another edition of Journey of Hope. Stories of people that have been impacted by the healing ministry of Loma University Medical Center. People that have gone on to be not only survivors, but thrivers. People often say that lightning never strikes the same place twice. However, it does happen in some people's experiences where they get the words, "You have cancer," and it comes back on one occasion or on two occasions or on three occasions. Our couple today have an interesting journey that they've been on. We've got an Irish Catholic and an Irish Protestant that united their lives together. They have 5 children and 16 and 7/8 grandchildren. And they've got a great story to share. An interesting journey they've been on. Jean and Doe, it's good to have you here, all the way from Colorado. And we want to let our listening audience know a little bit about you. And Jean, we'll start with you. Where are you from? Tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, Pagosa Springs, Colorado.
Currently?
Currently, I was born in Cleveland, Ohio in 1929. And I was raised there and went into service when I was 18 as an enlisted man, and I got out in a year and got into ROTC and got a commission, and then I did some time in the Air Force, and then I ended up back in Cleveland as a stockbroker.
This is after you got out of the service? So how long were you in the service?
4 years total, two tours, one as an enlisted man, one as an officer.
Okay. How do you get a 2-year tour?
Well, I got, in 1948, they passed what they call the Selective Service Act of 1948. If you were 18, you could go on active duty for 1 year and sign an obligation to go in the reserves for 6 years or extend or be accepted in ROTC. Well, after 13 weeks of basic training, I decided I did not want to be an enlisted man, and I was put in base operations as a dispatcher, and I saw all these second lieutenants with their wings coming through, and I had to clear their flight plans. And so I decided I was going to get out of that thing and go to college and get one of those gold bars too.
So 2 years and you were out.
Yeah, I went through college in 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah. And
well,
then I was recalled for Korea, but I was an officer.
So, but you were born and raised in the Cleveland area?
That's right.
Okay. And Irish Catholic?
Yes,
all
the
right.
way, second
Doe,
generation.
Tell us a little bit about your background.
I was born, actually, in Indiana, Pennsylvania,
Okay.
which is south of where I grew up. I grew up in St. Mary's, Pennsylvania, which was 99.9% German Catholic, and I was a Protestant.
And you were Protestant?
Yes.
Okay. And how long were you there in Pennsylvania, and how did you end up in Cleveland?
Well, I decided that I wanted to travel after I graduated from high school. I was too young to get a job in the factories, and that's all there was in St. Mary's were carbon factories. And so I went to Albany, New York, and got a job in a bank, and my grandfather got sick, and he wanted me to come home, so I came back home.
To Pennsylvania?
Yes.
Okay.
And when he passed away, I decided I'd go to Hollywood and become a movie star. Well, that didn't work.
So did you come to Hollywood for a while?
I went to Hollywood, yes. I worked for Holmes and Narver, and I lived in a YWCA, and decided since I wasn't going to be a movie star, I went with my girlfriend to Spokane, Washington.
Okay.
And I worked for a radiologist in Spokane, Washington. And then my girlfriend got sick, so we went back to her hometown, which was Cleveland. And I got a job as a secretary in a brokerage firm, and I was Jean's stockbroker's secretary.
Oh, so that's how it all... So you went into the service, because I know there's a very important point, and I don't know how much detail we'll be able to go into it, but you went into the service, you came out, went to school, then
Got
went
my
back in the
master's.
service.
Oh,
and,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And how long were you in the service the second time around?
3 years.
For 3 years. Then, when you got out, what did you do?
I got my master's at Baylor University.
You got your master's at Baylor, and you got, was that
In
an
business.
MBA?
Yes.
Okay. And then after that, where did you go?
I went back to Cleveland, met her, and became a stockbroker.
Okay. So did you become a stockbroker and then meet her?
No, I met her before I was a stockbroker.
Okay.
the guy who introduced me to her also introduced me to the people who hired me as a stockbroker. It's a different
So
firm.
he introduced you to being a stockbroker as well as to your new
Right.
future wife.
Right.
Okay. So how long were you in Cleveland area then?
Well, we stayed in Cleveland until the mid-'70s.
As a
And
stockbroker?
Yeah, I'm working for various firms because they kept changing names, you know, the way brokers do.
Yes.
And finally, when Drexel Firestone became Drexel Burnham and they closed the office, I said, that's it. So I packed up my wife, 5 kids, sailboat, and sold the house and went out west without a job.
Todd, ready to start a new life.
That's right.
Okay.
And I went out there and I called some people I knew in New York and I said, I'm available. And nothing happened. I got a job with a local broker who had a New York Stock Exchange member. And they have to do that to keep your license current.
Uh-huh.
And I studied some advanced studies on investment analysis and stuff like that. And all of a sudden I got a call from New York. It says, we want you.
Just like
And
that.
They gave me the job of calling on all the trust departments west of the Mississippi River,
I
trying to
see.
sell a new product that nobody else wanted the job for.
So you had a large area that
Yes,
you were
the
traveling
western
through.
United States.
Yeah.
They had 3 customers out there when I had got the job. And I said, I'll take it. If I can get an airplane, you'll pay for everything. But they said, we'll pay for everything, but you got to pay for the airplane. So then I just started flying around all these trust departments in my airplane.
So in the Air Force, you were trained in, what was the?
I was a pilot.
You were a
single-engine
pilot.
Mhm.
Okay.
Single engine.
And I want to kind of fast forward to a time,
Yeah,
I
go
think
ahead.
you were down in Florida. And you were flying what somebody described as some kind of a flying contraption.
Yes.
Yeah, and this was about 8 years ago, 7 years
Yes.
ago? Okay. And actually, you were out with another guy in this, what you
Yes.
call a flying contraption.
My ex-son-in-law,
Over
who's
the
a complete
water
idiot.
with your son-in-law. Okay. And because the reason it's important is this is the same time that Doe discovered that you had what?
Colon cancer.
You had colon cancer.
Yes.
So while you have colon cancer, and if I remember correctly, this was the same day that you had your port put in to be treated. He's out flying around, and we won't be able to go too much into the detail, but it apparently crashed over the water.
That's right.
Over the
Flipped.
water.
He landed. He didn't know how to land in the wind. The
It
thing
was-
flipped.
It was a little
and it
Zodiac.
flipped, and so you're out how far from shore?
3 miles.
3 miles from shore.
February.
And it's in February. And eventually somebody came and they rescued
The
you?
propeller hit me, and I cut an artery, and I was bleeding, and we kept waving my undershirt. I got out, and some
You took-
guy on shore.
Put it on the oar or something?
Yes, somebody on shore saw it, and the Coast Guard cutter came roaring up there and fished me out.
But I mean, they send you home?
No, they took me right to the hospital because I was government property once I got on the Coast Guard, and I was bleeding.
And so did they take you by ambulance?
Well, they were going to, but a couple of pilots showed up with a flight by life helicopter that they were just checking out. It was a brand new hospital, and they talked me into going with them. So they flight for life me to the hospital, and then they discharged me.
I mean, you went
After I
in, they
got
patched you up,
stitches,
and
yeah.
you were okay.
They-
Now, it was at this same time that you had a port. So now tell us, when you found out you had colon cancer, what kind of an impact did this make?
Well, I had the colon cancer at the end of December. It was, never had a clue, never a clue. And Jean insisted that I have a colonoscopy. And I said, I don't want to. I don't like doctors. I don't like medicine. Why bother?
Sure.
So
But he insisted.
he insisted. So I went in and I came out and he said, you have cancer. And I said, that's not funny. And he
You
said,
thought he was joking?
yeah. And he says, no, you do. And I said, I could think of a better joke than that. And the nurse says, no, you do. And she says, not only do you have colon cancer, but it's very bad.
So in other words, it was progressed.
It was
Stage
So they
three
go in
plus.
just for a normal colonoscopy, and they share with you that it looks bad. You've got cancer.
it
In
had,
fact, it looks like it's an aggressive kind of cancer.
it had metastasized into 17 of the lymph nodes outside
Wow.
the colon.
Okay.
So it was
So you
around
can't
Christmas.
just put a little bandage on that.
No, when it was Christmas, and we
Christmas time.
and we couldn't get in anywhere because it's the holidays. So Gene had his friend at Baylor, And that was on Monday. He said, how soon can you get here? Gene says, I can be there Monday. And he says, okay, we'll operate on Tuesday.
So you find out when, on a Friday?
Found out on a
Wednesday, middle of the week or
middle
something?
of the
Friday.
It was a Friday, and you're going to get her down there. You call and have a contact, and he said, can you be here by Monday? So you get her down there, and then what?
It was stage 3+.
It was stage 3+.
Yeah, and they removed 18 inches of the colon.
Only 18 inches.
Only 18.
Okay.
Well,
For you, it's only
for me,
18
it's
inches.
only
Me, 18 feet, you know. 18 inches. Okay.
well, I'm not one of these people who takes sickness very serious. I really am. Well, it's in your hands now. You take over. You do it. You know, I'm out of here.
So you're going to have surgery. I mean, are they talking about any kind of a follow-up? I mean, you're just going to have the surgery and kind of sew you back up, and then you'll be on your way, and he can go flying again? And
No, I had 6 months of chemo.
Oh, you had 6 months of chemo.
Yeah, I had 3 months in Florida and then 3 months in Durango.
Okay. Well, how was this? For
Well,
for somebody that's so optimistic and bubbly, and I mean, you had 6 months of chemo.
Well, the first treatment I went into, there were 13 people sitting in the room, and they were all sitting like this.
Very serious, sick
I
patients.
said, I can't handle this. And I told Gene, I said, I'm not going back. I says, I don't need that. And he said, well, you have to have the chemo. And I says, well, all right. So I went back in. I said, okay, listen up, everybody.
So you're going in to tell the other patients to loosen up.
Yeah.
And you're just getting started, but you don't like what you see.
No.
So you say, hey, listen, loosen up.
Listen up. We had a party every Wednesday. And when I left, they gave me 2 bottles of non-alcoholic champagne.
Is that a
Yeah.
fact? So you became the life of the party.
And we had fun.
And you had a party.
Yes, we had a party.
So, and 3 months there, and then 3 months in
Durango.
in Durango.
And it was the same thing in Durango. I walked in and I said, no way, come on. You know.
Liven up, huh? Loosen up.
Yeah, it's not the end of the world.
Now repeat that again. It's not the
It's
end
not
of the
the
world.
end of the
I mean,
world.
you're diagnosed with a very serious cancer here, and it's a very aggressive. And so you're going through chemo. Did you get pretty sick from the chemo?
No,
You didn't.
it was a walk in the park.
A walk in the park. Well, there's different kinds of parks. I can see that right now. It's a walk in the park. So you went through 6 months of chemo. Now, are you following up? Do you have to go back every 3 months?
Well,
or-
it's been 7 years, but I had to go back every 6 months, and I had to have CAT scans, PET scans, X-rays, and
all kinds of follow-up.
yeah, had to go back once a month for blood work to make sure that everything was okay, and had fantastic doctor. So
And so everything's been going fine.
everything's been
And
going
the
okay.
doctor's last words were, I just fired myself. You don't need me anymore.
He did such a good job. You don't need to come back
Yeah.
anymore. Well, that is wonderful news. So things are going fine, and I know Gene here. He's had his all kinds of experiences that we've shared with one another, and this little accident out in the water that he recovered from was just kind of a little bump in the road. You had another type of cancer, apparently. I don't know how many years ago
I
that
got
was.
squamous twice on my lips.
Okay. How long ago was that?
Various basal cells, you know.
Yeah.
About 6 years ago.
About 6 years ago. So yours was about 7 years ago, and then next year he gets a couple of kinds of cancers, but you know, they're just little cancers here and there, and you kind of take care of them, and you kind of move ahead with everything. And then you find out you had another type of cancer,
Prostate cancer.
prostate cancer. And how did that hit you when you found out you had prostate cancer?
Well, it was a routine physical I take every year, part of my old military training, and preventative. And my PSA was only 1.0.
At the time of the exam.
That's right.
Okay, I want everybody to hear that. It was 1.0, which
right.
was very low
Right.
for any kind of a man, and yet an older gentleman, 1.0 is very, very low. So how did they find it?
Gave me a rectal,
Okay.
and he said, Gene, old boy, he says, you got a lump. He says, oops, you got 2 lumps.
During the
He said-
exam,
yeah. He says, you better go see
probably a
an
urologist.
urologist and get biopsy. So back to Baylor.
Yeah, I mean, you've had your experience there at Baylor
Yeah,
and had a
and,
good experience.
Yes.
Okay.
And he biopsied me, painlessly I might add, compared to what I hear about some of these other fellows.
Yeah.
He was also a pilot. We talked airplanes, and he said he was going to hit me 14 times. And I said, well, when are we going to get started? He said, I've already done 10.
Wow, that was a good.
So that was a good experience.
Yeah, that was a good experience.
And then a friend of mine from Dallas, another Air Force buddy, I was visiting him while I was in Dallas to have my biopsy. And I told him, and he said, oh, you got to talk to a guy I know who went to this place called Loma, in California, and keeps talking about it. He was there 7 years ago, and he says that's the only way to go if you ever have prostate cancer. So I talked to him. He gave me the telephone number of the hospital. I called them. I had two of my daughter-in-laws, our computer experts. They got on the internet and they looked under Proton. They delivered me about 14 pages or so of stuff. Information, including Loma Linda. Loma Linda sent me the book. You know the name, You Can Live Without
by
Surgery.
Bob Markini.
Yeah, right. And I read that, and then I decided after I read all their stuff that I would check a few doctors, and the doctors didn't seem to know too much about it. I didn't have anyone tell me not to do it.
But limited information as far as...
Yeah. Well, when one guy told me he'd put the seeds in for free, the gold seeds, I knew we weren't on the same page. And he's the guy who biopsied me, but he was very good. He tried to get me to go to Baylor, but I'm an old salesman, and naturally you got to sell the company brand. So I decided to go to Loma Linda, and I'm now finished, and I feel confident, and I don't think there's going to be any problems at all.
Now, while the two of you are out here, have you been actively involved, or, I mean, was this matter of the treatment, did it kind of set you back a little bit, or what have you been doing while you're in California?
I love it. I'm going to stay. He's going home.
You're going to send him home, and you're going to stay. So what kind of things have you been doing? I know that you've been actively involved.
Well, I play golf, and I play bridge down in Redlands. Or not Redlands, Ridge, down south, down 215.
Okay. Riverside?
Riverside.
Okay.
Played bridge down there, and I swim in the triathlon.
You did take you took part in the Possibilities Triathlon,
Yeah.
And I might add, for our listening audience, that we had a number of teams that took part from radiation medicine, and some that were being treated with proton, and some of the staff. And I might add that the Possibilities Triathlon was a 3.1 mile run, followed up with an 8-mile bike ride, followed up with a 150-yard swim. And you did the swimming part, and your team came in first among all the proton anyway, and very early among the others. And you swam the 150 yards.
And I'm not a dense water swimmer. I can swim in the ocean with the salt water forever.
But you did absolutely great.
Well, I enjoyed it. I got in. I have to say this. First of all, I had to run. I didn't have any shoes. They didn't tell me I had to run.
Well, you had to run to where the pool was.
Yeah, from the bike to the
they
pool.
They started a little distance away.
Then they told me I couldn't dive in. I had to jump, and I've never jumped in a pool. I thought, oh. So I came up. I started swimming, and I was going to do a nice leisure swim, like
Sure, just
all
kind
I
of
had to do was finish. Well, everyone started passing me. I said, well, it's enough of that, and woohoo!
So you really went at it.
So I went, and then I had to run to the finish line.
And you did an overhand all the way, didn't you? That is absolutely wonderful. So she's been keeping busy. What have you been doing while you're here in treatment?
I have actually, I hike every day.
Did you go hiking every day?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I have to go a little slow because I'm nursing a repaired meniscus, but I get there.
Okay.
And I read a lot of books. And my highlight is to be the wine bearer. I deliver the wine at the
At a program.
at the program.
Patient
potluck.
program, yeah.
The potluck.
there.
Right, I'm the wine steward.
Okay. So you've been actively involved there.
Yes, and then we do go to the Wednesday night
Educational support group
educational,
meeting.
and we took the trip with the through the machine.
Yeah, you went through on the tour.
Uh-huh. And
Have you been using the Drayson Center at all?
Yes, I've gone over with Doe, and I've sat in the hot tub and soaked my knee.
Okay.
Why, she swam.
While she was swimming.
And we go to the dinners on Thursday.
So now, tell me about the impact of the support system here, because you mentioned it was a little bit different than what you had encountered when you had cancer.
It is, Jean and I have been through a lot of experiences. We've done a lot of things. I mean, a lot. This is one of the best experiences I have ever had, and it's the positive energy. It just makes you feel good. It makes you feel like doing things, and the people are, all the people we've met are so wonderful, and some of them I miss a lot, especially my golf buddies.
Yeah, well, you get acquainted, and you're on the same
Yes.
journey, and you're spending time with them down at the Drayson Center. And how often were you going down to the Drayson Center?
I only went down to practice swimming.
I remember when you say, now where's the pool at? Because you got the swimming coming up in a few days, and you really hadn't been doing much swimming prior to this. You used to swim years ago.
But my idea of exercise is getting out of bed in the morning. I don't like exercise. I run up and down the stairs. I run back and forth. And of course, we're staying in this little room like this, and we don't get a lot of exercise. Jean hikes up the mountain in Pagosa every day. It's a mile.
Now, for our listening, where's Pagosa?
Pagosa Springs, Colorado.
Yeah, and it's in relationship to Durango, or where is it?
Durango, down at the Four Corners, southwest.
Okay,
And it's a great place, lots of snow.
good. Well, now tell me, now that you've had cancer, I'll start with you, Jean. Now that you've had cancer, what difference does that make to you?
Just another bump in the road, that's
It's
all.
a bump in the road. After all you've been through, it is just kind of a
Yeah,
bump in the road.
I've been scared to death before.
Now, but when you're diagnosed, what did it make any kind of an impact, or just here's another little thing, or
When he said you got lumps right away, you know, I'm old enough to know I probably got prostate cancer. He didn't have to tell me. And he didn't have to tell me to go get biopsied, but I knew it was all going to come out of his mouth, and I thought, well, something had to catch me, so
okay?
that was the way I thought about it. I personally have faith that the Lord will take care of me as long as he wants to. He has so far. And I'm not going to say that if something's coming, I'm going to let myself get killed and say it's the will of God. I'm going to fight like hell. But if I do get killed, why,
Then
nobody owes me anything.
yeah, you've enjoyed the life, and the Lord's going to watch over you.
And I
when
look
it's your
forward to the
time,
life hereafter.
You're looking forward to the life. Now, what about having cancer? It sounded like you were trying to make it out of a party, but what did it do for you? I mean, having had
Nothing.
cancer. You had cancer.
Yeah, it didn't bother me.
Was it like a little bump in the road also?
It wasn't even a bump in the road. They said you got cancer. I said, well, fix it.
She was out playing golf.
Playing
As soon as
unbelievable.
the surgery was better.
Yeah.
I have, let's say, 5 kids. I have been at the
Only 5?
Only 5. I've been at the emergency room so often. I mean, 4 of them are boys. And they knew me by first name. You know, I said, "Oh, you know, I get this for here, this for that." I've had one had his face ripped off when he was on a motorcycle accident. I had another one that had a badminton pole, 58 stitches in the roof of his mouth. My daughter is in the hospital with bronchitis every time you turn around. And the other kids, they don't get sick. They just get in these dumb accidents. And
So
I
you-
say, suck it up and go in.
So when
One
you,
son rode into a parked car was very academic, reading a book on his bicycle.
one of your
Broke-
kids.
Yeah, and ended up in the emergency room.
He was taking 10 back to the library, and he didn't have one finished.
So with 5 kids and 16, and I think you said 16 and 7, 8 grandkids, and many of them are in not too far away from where you are. I mean, some are scattered, but you're able to see your kids and the grandkids.
And they all come home at Christmas time,
They all come home at Christmas time for one great big reunion.
and we have a 3-bedroom house.
Oh, it must be cozy, is all I can say.
Well, we live in a community that has old hunting lodge on it before the homes were built. And it's belonged by the Property Owners Association. And it's got 5 bedrooms in it and 3 full baths and a full kitchen and a huge fireplace. So you know where the kids go.
Perfect. Yeah, absolutely.
I rent that.
Perfect, yeah.
But we don't rent it all the time because it's not always available.
Well, but so the kids come home every Christmas.
Yeah, and
And
more often.
you
sometimes.
must be a tremendous role model for them in terms of all that you've been through. And I mean, many people are stymied when they hear the words, "I've got cancer," and they hear it as a death sentence, and they begin falling apart. But you have encountered so many different things during life. When this came along, it was just like a bump in the road. And obviously, well, we're talking about an Irish Catholic and a Protestant Irish Protestant here getting together, and the two of you have blended your lives in an amazing way. And I know that as you return there to Colorado, that you're going to have opportunity to share with others what having cancer meant to you, and that it's just a little bump in the road. Again, I want to thank you for joining us here on Journey of Hope. We have people from around the world that are watching, and different people that have different experiences are able to identify with some of the things that you've been sharing. And life is a journey. We wake up in the morning and we have no idea what's going to unfold for us before that day. The psalmist says, "Today is the day of the Lord. Let us be glad and rejoice in it." We only have one day. We don't have yesterday. We don't have tomorrow. And I often tell people, I don't know what the future holds, but I'm so glad to know who holds the future. And for our listening audience, I'm Lynn Martell for Journey of Hope. And this week, some of you that are watching have been encountered with some sobering news. And I want you to know that God's got a plan for your life. If you'll wait, He will open doors. If you'll seek counsel, if you'll look to Him in prayer, He will open doors, He'll open windows, He'll give you a glimpse of what His plans are for you. I want to thank you for joining us. And I want you to know that God's got a plan for your life. Until we meet next week, thank you for joining us. We thank you for your prayers and for your support. Until next week, may God bless you each one. Look to Him. He will open and close doors for you. Give Him a chance.